Hey there folks, Rel here. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at the Fire Suppression utility slot, which is available on every vehicle in the game. It received a nice little buff a couple updates ago, and it's head and shoulders more useful now than it was previously. When a vehicle is on fire, it's going to take damage over time at a pretty decent pace. Your vehicle seems to get set on fire, regardless of which one you're driving, when it drops below 15% health. The fire suppression ability serves two purposes now, and the first is that it puts out the fire. That should be a given. When a fire is put out, the health of whichever vehicle you're driving is instantly brought up to 16 or 17% health, so barely above that threshold. And the key is that the vehicle has to be on fire to begin with. The second purpose, and the new function, is that you're going to regenerate some of your vehicle's health over 5 seconds, and this kicks in immediately after putting out a fire, or activated when the vehicle is not on fire, so it's essentially a free health boost over 5 seconds. The fire suppression utility slot costs 30, 100, 200, and 500 certs, or 830 total to hit max rank. It restores 3, 6, 9, and 12% of the vehicle's maximum health over 5 seconds, and it has a cooldown of 60, 55, 50, and 45 seconds. That said, how useful is it now in comparison to your other abilities? Here's a quick chart that shows you how much health will be regenerated depending on the vehicle you're using it on. Just remember though that the percentages of health are going to stay the same, and that the resistances to different weapons are going to vary from vehicle to vehicle. But as far as flat health numbers go, this is what you're looking at. On the flash, you'd be giving up your turbos, your scout radar, or even your smoke screen. A flash unit is also known to die in a single shot, or have the rider be killed before the ATV actually explodes. Also, the health return is simply too low to be useful, so overall I don't suggest this ever on the flash. The harasser will also give up turbos, gives up the gate diffuser, and smoke, but I don't actually see this as being a terrible option for those who like to skirmish, especially from range. The little dings and dents that you get can be repaired periodically without having to leave the vehicle, which is pretty useful in and of itself, but if you're running a full crew with an engineer in the back, again, the health return is low and the opportunity cost is high. So I'd probably suggest this as a starting certification, and maybe if you solo harasser from range, but not really much more than that. And who can pass up turbo boosts anyway? I mean, come on. For Sunderers, you're obviously losing out on AMS, you're losing out on gate diffuser, and you're losing out on smoke. However, I do think that a pure battle bus has some synergy with fire suppression, as well as anyone playing a medical bus. So the health return is good, and if you're constantly moving around the battlefield, your gunners can tear things apart while you heal yourself periodically. This is going to shorten your overall downtime and can be good for emergency repairs. And it keeps you from having to constantly get out of the Sunderer, repair, and potentially die. So for general purposes, the Sunderer loses too many important things, but for battle buses who aren't gate diffusers or medical buses, I think it's a pretty good choice. Lightning seem to get a decent benefit from the fire suppression ability thanks to that decent health gain coupled with their innate ability to move quickly as a medium armored unit. On top of that, the Lightning does not have a whole lot of useful options for the slot in the first place. Iris Smoke is useful in some cases just for the screen effect if nothing else, but people don't normally use ground-to-ground lock-on launchers unless they're playing TR, in which case they have strikers. Especially given that many people outside of organized outfits seem to stay away from annihilators when they can. You'll also lose proximity radar, but that's not a huge loss depending on your playstyle. So fire suppression for Lightnings, I'd absolutely take it. It's actually more of a toss-up between IR Smoke, so that's going to depend on your playstyle. For main battle tanks, the health advantage you get is pretty legit, but the biggest problem with taking the fire suppression slot is that you lose out on your factional ability. I personally think that factional abilities should be innate on every vehicle, as in they should not take up a slot, but hey, that's just me. So you really have to ask yourself why you'd want to drop a factional for the fire suppression utility slot, or any ability really. So if you're a prowler that just doesn't use anchor, that hates it, yeah, it can be useful. If you're one of those people who think that Mag Burner is absolutely useless because it only moves you forward, which makes me laugh a little bit, then Fire Suppression is alright for you. And if you're a Vanguard, just never give up your shield. And I'm only partially kidding. Vanguards, even at level 1, are going to negate more damage more often with their factional shield than Fire Suppression is going to heal you for. So there's really no reason for Vanguards to take Fire Suppression. Proximity radar is more useful for MBTs than it is for lightnings, thanks to that secondary gunner, and if you're in an anti-infantry role, the proximity radar is going to be very useful for you. IR smoke also feels more useful on a main battle tank just due to them being slower overall and also having a large profile, whereas the lightning can kind of just speed away, or they can hide behind smaller bumps in terrain. So overall, I do not suggest Fire Suppression for the main battle tank, save for some special cases. ESF lose out on flares and scout radar, which are two big ones generally for flying, and I don't personally use flares because I'm a glutton for punishment and I don't fly nearly enough, but I feel like there is something to be said for Fire Suppression on an ESF, but it depends entirely on how many lock-ons you have in the area. If you're in an air-to-ground role versus infantry and smaller engagements, yes, this is going to be useful. You can shrug off small arms fire with periodic healing, but it's probably most useful in dogfights where it's just you against another pilot. Many times, and keep in mind that I'm a pretty bad pilot, Fire Suppression has won me the fight against other pilots. Additional health is additional health no matter how you look at it, and being able to tempt another pilot into being reckless because he sees that you're on fire is also great for mind games. So for Fire Suppression on ESFs, I definitely say give it a shot. Probably not going to be that useful for you unless it's at max rank, but you should toy with it a little bit and see if there is any potential there for you. Liberators are going to lose out on Afterburners, Flare, Ejection Seat, which is useful as well, but also you're getting a very sizable health boost from Fire Suppression. Just like with an ESF, if you're fighting over an area that's just full of lock-on launchers, probably not the best option for you. But if you're in an area with very few lock-ons, then Fire Suppression is going to make you a lot more survivable. I'd say take it if you constantly have a crew. It's going to keep you in the air a lot longer against enemy ESF. It's going to repair those stray rocket shots or flak hits when you're hammering the spawn rooms, and it's very viable overall. And lastly, we have that sky whale of a vehicle, the Galaxy. And at max rank, it's going to give you 840 health over 5 seconds. That's pretty ridiculous. That's about 12 seconds of what max rank nanite auto repair is going to give you, but it'll do it in 5 seconds, and while in the middle of combat. So when the Galaxy gets an overhaul, chances are that they're going to be doing things with the utility slot, and you're going to be missing out if you do pull Fire Suppression. But right now, Fire Suppression is absolutely amazing for a Galaxy. People generally don't like to waste rockets on Galaxies because they just don't do a lot of damage, and Galaxies have a lot of health, and they use up their ammo supply. So the biggest threat really comes down to flak, lots and lots of flak. So the extra juice that you get from Fire Suppression is going to trump flares on a Galaxy in most situations. So those are the vehicle-specific breakdowns. Now let's talk a little bit more generally. Fire Suppression works through damage received. This in itself is huge because you're usually relying on your repair tool or your nanite auto repair defensive slot. And in either case, you're going to have to get out of combat, you're going to have to exit the vehicle, you're going to have to avoid taking damage so that auto repair can kick in, or avoid dying so that you can repair the vehicle. So Fire Suppression is a nice little health boost that can keep you out of harm's way. Also, there is some extra synergy with Fire Suppression and nanite auto repair. Nanite auto repair will not activate while your vehicle is on fire, as it's counting as a damage source. So putting yourself back in the green is obviously a huge boon to your survivability. This, in addition to just being able to have some healing while you escape and find cover to repair safely, is also very useful. The Fire Suppression slot is also a nice supplement to people who do not use the engineer class while driving vehicles. And I generally view vehicles as disposable. I'm just not a vehicle guy. I like to feel like I'm actually doing something on the ground. And so whenever I take a vehicle, I'm going to try to get the most life out of it before ultimately suiciding into an enemy sunderer, a massive unit, or whatever the case is. But having that bit of extra healing is useful for this style of play, and also useful if I'm just skirmishing and staying out the outer reaches because I cannot repair the vehicle, but the fire suppression can. And speaking of suiciding your vehicles, if you exit the vehicle while fire suppression is active, so within that 5-second window, it's going to stop repairs. So if you plan on activating it and then getting out and repairing, it could be worth waiting those extra few seconds before doing so. There is currently one bug that I know of with fire suppression, and I'm not sure if it's been patched yet. I'm not even sure if I'm going to say this right, but if you activate fire suppression next to a proximity repair sunroofer, your vehicle is not going to get repaired by fire suppression. That's what I hear. I haven't tested it myself, and it's not a huge issue, but it could be detrimental. At lower levels, fire suppression has a long cooldown. Even when it's maxed out, it has a pretty sizable cooldown. So at those lower levels, you want to use it only for actually putting out fires for those emergency situations. But when you end up maxing it out, then you have some more leniency and you can use it intermittently for recovering health. So overall, fire suppression utility slot got a substantial boost in usefulness, and it definitely helps certain vehicles out more than others. I would like to see it more viable, more useful on vehicles like the Flash or the Harasser, but aside from that, it's extremely inexpensive if you just need something to throw in the utility slot, and it has potential that goes well beyond. If this video has been interesting, helpful, or entertaining, please feel free to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about the channel. And if you have anything else you'd like to add, like what vehicles you like using it on, and how well it works out for you, drop a comment below for everyone to see. Thanks very much, folks. We're all signing off.